Hey guys, Jeremy Wells here. Got a bunch of Hogan swings I'm going to run through today. I couldn't find a perfect one down the line. I've seen one that exists, but I couldn't get it loaded onto my computer in time. So anyways, one of my better down the line ones is a shot of him still camera. It's just a little offline. Obviously, this is number 13 at Augusta. So this ball is probably hanging above his feet. Looks like he's working a kind of a draw in there off this hanging lie. So pretty cool. A lot of awesome stuff with his swing. A lot of people kind of think this is the basis of the modern golf swing. Personally, I think this is an unbelievably good golf swing, and I don't know what I would do to make it any better. So, a couple hallmarks of his swing. One, the cupped left wrist at the top of his swing, going along with that weak grip, is going to lead to a pretty open face. Second, his hands are always going to work out towards the golf ball in transition as opposed to down behind him. This looks a little more downward because this camera's offline, but I assure you, as the butt of the grip always moves towards the ball. What goes right along with that, and the amount of arm rotation he has throughout his backswing and in transition, is this golf club shallows, meaning the shaft flattens or points out above the golf ball by the time he gets to left arm parallel. We can't really see it here, but typically that shaft is laid back and pointing above the ball early on in his downswing. Another hallmark of Hogan's was his right arm gets well almost in front of his chest, front part of his rib cage, and he returns the shaft directly to the address plane. Basically, nobody really does that besides Sergio and a couple other guys. And finally, with all the rotation and openness, he's going to wheel this club well around to the left. You see it exiting over here. So super rotational, just a really, really cool, unique motion. So if we look a little more specifically at a couple of things, this is a kind of an inward takeaway look because of the camera angle. But typically, that club's coming right up the plane. He immediately deepens his right hip, as you'll see. He's lowering into the ground because he's keeping his head out as he deepens. So he's increasing posture, very tall setup, increasing his posture to get up to his position at the top. Still has a lot of right hip depth. And as he starts forward, he's going to rotate from the ground. Club's going to lay back. He's going to turn his wrist down, his left wrist down to square the face. I have a good angle of that coming next. And he's going to release this thing well to the left. So, again, a lot of really cool stuff. Here is a face-on. Not a great angle, but it'll suffice. You can see the ball's way back here. You know he wouldn't be playing that off the inside of his heel. At least I wouldn't think so. And what we see here, let me zoom in a little. What we're going to see is nice trunk turn. See that right hip is going to start to head towards the target as he gets up to the top. So it's going to lean forward. So that's hip depth turning into that hip driving towards the target. That's going to start his downswing. There's actually a cool moment here with Hogan where his left knee is working back away from the target as his right hip is working towards the target. So that's, in my opinion, what kind of starts his transition, is that right hip leaning towards the target. Right there, you can see it. That sets him up to have a nice lateral motion immediately, followed by some serious hip rotation. With all that movement from the ground, his left arm just stays wedged against his left pec. is able to extend through and hold this really nice line all the way through impact. So, great pivot action, great use of the ground, very lateral looking move with the hips, but includes great rotation. From down the line, there's a clearer shot of what's going on with his wrists. We're going to see, again, this is kind of a weird angle. He's hitting this ball actually well out to the right. So anyway, we have a clear picture of the club shaft. Looks a little crossed. That's because the angle's off. But what we can see here is this wrist in a cupped position. So this face is hanging borderline open. You see the left arm well across the chest. He always had not much arm lift. As he starts forward, you're going to watch the grip work towards the golf ball. And the club head is going to kick behind him. So that's the shallowing motion that he was very famous for, which led to so many good things that he's able to do. Hogan was big talking about squaring his left wrist. He wrote a lot about it in his book. So he's coming from this cupped wrist position or extended wrist into a bowed left wrist. That's a big dramatic difference than where he was at the top. Okay, so his ability to turn that wrist down is one of the reasons why he can hit the shaft plane. It's also another reason why he can rotate so far around to the left after he hits it. I think this is one of the coolest images out there, at least that I have. And it's this golf ball heading in this direction, as his club heads, I don't know, around that way. So any Johnny Miller or whoever preaching swinging down the line could just look right at this video and maybe learn something. And let's see what else I got here. This was later on in his career, I believe, at a U.S. Open. I only say that because it has a USGA here. Still camera, looks like a driver. You're going to notice he deepens his right hip immediately from where he started, leading him right into transition, getting ready to snap everything out of the way. So when I look at this swing, I really think it's a lower body driven golf swing. And if you watch it in full speed, you can really, well, you believe what you want, but that's what I think. I see those legs really leading the way, everything else following. And that's exactly what he wrote about in his book in terms of sequencing and how the swing works. And one last one. This was, I think, at Augusta. I just found this. You can draw a couple lines on it. And what you're going to see is just how hard he could hit the ball. I think he'd be one of the longest players in the game today. Super, super full swing. You see that right hip start to cut right as he gets to the top. Right hits. So that's what I mean when the right hip can cut towards the target as the left knee is still moving backwards. Right there. I think that's super unique. Don't see many guys do that. That's how he gets that early lateral movement and then just rotates, rotates. Super externally rotated with his left knee down towards impact, but then he's going to snap it back, straighten everything out, give this a full whack. One really hard thing to do physically is to stand here and keep your head out over the ball So you're still in your spine tilt, and they get this open right after you hit a ball. His hips are totally facing the target, his chest is totally facing the target, and the club's only right here. So that ability to get so open so soon with his club trailing equals all out power. Then he had that little fallback walk through deal. You know, I think he just gets so open, swings so hard, he has to kind of fall back. Then he knows it's going down the middle, so he just steps forward and goes right after it. That must be a nice feeling. I guess when you're that good, you have somebody to come pick your tee up for you, and you just get to keep on walking. I have this super blurry one, but it does a good idea of showing exactly what he's up to with this right arm in transition. I would call that a little internally rotated compared to some guys. You think Tiger at the top, Adam Scott, a lot more modern players, you're not going to see as much of that right bicep, trail bicep. So in transition, because he's internal and going external, you're going to see that elbow kick in. The upper arm, his forearm's going to lean back. Based on that movement, that's why he's able to flatten the shaft so hard. Once that shaft gets flat, it ends up just steepening down into the ball. He has all this room for it to come down and rotate well left. I know that's not the clearest picture, but one more thing I can show you, even though this camera's moving, is he starts at 57 degrees, and he hits it at 50, we'll call it 55. So I'd argue to say this is a little wedge shot that he's actually hitting below the shaft plane he started on. In order to do that, you have to have extremely good depth with your body. You have to create space. Right arm's got to get around in front of you. You got to turn that wrist down and get everything shooting way left after the hit. So that's been Hogan. The guy was unbelievable. Wish I could have seen him hit a golf ball in person. You can see how he immediately deepens his right hip. And as he gets, halfway back, he starts turning it towards the target. That gives him that early lateral motion. Then everything's just around, rotate, 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 and snaps through. I love the look of how his hips are elevating through the hit. How nicely this all just fits. This is his famous face on from an instructional video he did. See how much play he had in his wrists. I don't know if they were like double jointed or anything, but they definitely flex more than most guys. See that right elbow kicking in front of him, looking like Dustin Johnson there. Everything rotating through. So that snapping back of the left leg, straightening of the right. I love this look. I just think that's so unique, hallmark of his swing. And that finish, it's nothing like it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. That is Mr. Ben Hogan.